a pity party in Cleveland, but who knows? I tell you what, I'm going to go up to Pennsylvania right now, bring in one of our defending champions, one of our original WNST guys, via his brother, who was a pretty good pitcher. I think he's at least in the Hall of Very Good for now. We're going up to Montoursville, Pennsylvania, and bring in my one-time foil and friend, Mark Mussina, back on. Moose, getting you on the radio, I need an excuse to call you because I know you're chasing kids and chasing little leaguers and parenting and doing all that stuff that you folks do up there, but there's nothing like a good brawl at Camden Yards that makes me say, let me call Mark Mussina, see what he's got on his mind besides making movies.
Yeah, no, good street fight. There we go. That's it'll be on my gravestone, I think.
Were you at the game when your brother and the Hasselman thing? I was there, so I don't know if you were there.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah, that was, tough that he's associated with that to some degree when there's brawls. But it does speak to how few real brawls there are in baseball. I mean, as much as we bitch whenever there is one and say, well, they should legislate this out of the game or whatever, it still does make the national news because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I don't know if you'll ever be able to get rid of it. I think most of it depends on who gets hit and when they get hit. And, it's just in personalities of the world, it's like, how many bar brawls have you been in and how many people have been in 15 bar fights? And it's not because of circumstance. It's more because of personality and what they're looking for. So, there are guys that play point, like Ripken would have never charged them out because he just, was, I don't want to say more professional than that or whatever, but it would have never happened. And there's some guys.
But he's also a guy nobody would have thrown at his head either, probably, right? No Ventura would have had the balls to throw at Cal Ripken's head.
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. I think one of the things about it is, which is will always add to the allure and the mystery of it is, pitchers don't ever try to throw it down the middle, and they do. They don't know where the ball is going every time, every pitch. That's why there's wild pitches. That's why, we see these. But I shouldn't say every time a hitter gets hit, but most of the times that some of these hitters get hit, they think he did it on purpose. And there is, I think the vast, vast majority of hit by pitches are accidental. I really, really do. And if you ask the hitters, how many times do you get plucked with a fastball in the ribs and the guy says it's accidental, you say, I did it on purpose. So, there's always going to be that. And that's part of sports. We see it in every sport. We see fouls in basketball that guys take offense to. And we see late hits in football that guys take offense to where it's just, it's just part of the game and it will always be there. And it certainly adds a little color.
Well, and the part of it also is, as you said, personalities. And when you look, your brother's brawl was very detached. He didn't have any more. Hasselman didn't have any more. It was something that was, within the framework of Chris Bosio and that situation. But I would say this, this Ventura thing has gone on. There are 10 teams that hate him. Machado's now been in a brawl with 2 or 3 different guys in 3 different organizations, now thrown a bat, right? And now he's going out and thrown a right cross as well, which would make him a guy you probably don't want to throw at his chin. Once early in your career, you established that you're a little cray-cray, right? Where, Pedro Martinez built a Hall of Fame career around being cray-cray, right?
Well, maybe from a hitter's standpoint, you think, listen, if I tell this guy I'm going to the mound, it'll take some guys, from throwing at me. The guys like Martinez and Clemens, and what gave them the kind of the insurance policy behind it is they knew if they wanted to hit someone, they could just strike the next guy out and get out of the inning. Because for all intents and purposes, as people talk about in the strategy of winning, they'll tell you how walks just kill pitchers. Well, a hit by pitch is just a walk.
Sure.
It doesn't do you any better. It doesn't do you any worse. You don't want to let the guys get on base, but it gives the advantage to the hard throwers that, number one, it hurts more. It's scarier. But number two, they can get themselves out of trouble better because they know that they can probably strike the next guy out, or they have a better chance of striking the next guy out.
Well, hey, dude, we hear about Drysdale and Gibson hitting guys back in the 60s, right? Their ERAs were always sub-2, right? So, after they hit the guy, what percentage of the guys they hit scored, and right. That would be the larger thing. But then when there's a guy like Ventura that's just a little bit of a knucklehead and his ERA 6 to begin with, that's when it even gets more bravado because it's pretty obvious the guy doesn't care much at this point, right?
You would think. Yeah, you would think. And it'll be the problem would be with a guy like that when you're not producing is that his teammates and the higher-ups are going to say, listen, we're going to, he's going to get our guys hit. He's going to get our guys hurt. We can't have our guys get hurt in brawls. We can't have our guys getting plucked just for no reason. Because throughout the course of every baseball week, you're going to have, probably 2 games that by the 8th inning becomes 7-2 or 8-1 or one way or the other.
And you get a free pass, right?
And you get a free shot at our guys. And if we do that, if that happens to us once a week, then there's 26 plucks during the season. We're going to get guys hurt that we can't afford to get hurt. So that's one of the ways it also polices itself because his own team or everyone's own team kind of puts a kibosh on it to a degree when they say, listen, we understand there's a difference between protecting our guys and getting our guys hurt. And, but it's gone on forever. The Hasselman game was 93, and that is now, it seems hard to believe it. It was 23 years ago. And
that's how long we've been knowing each other, Moose.
Isn't it? It's been a long 23 years, hasn't it? Damn, we're old.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
When we weren't quite so old.
I remember hearing all those, bird songs about being older and younger than that now. I sort of catch on to that whole Roger McGuinn thing at this point. Mark Mussina joining us here. Do you tweet? I mean, what do I say about you other than you've been my friend and, baseball buddy and your brother and all that? I mean, I know you did a movie, that has 2 names that you can explain all that to me at this point, I think.
Well, the original, it's funny when you write, because I've written a few that I'm proud of, but the one that got sold, I didn't really have a good title for it. And and we sat down. I actually talked to one producer earlier who came up with a title that I didn't really like, and then we sat down with the director, and the director was Jonathan Silverman, who was in Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, I met Jonathan Silverman. I have a picture with him on the field at Coors Field. He was a celebrity home run derby guy because he was doing a television show at that time, I think, on ABC or something, right?
Yes, he was one of the nicest guys. Was it the single guy? Is that
the single guy? Yeah, that was it. Yep, I think that was it. Yep.
One of the nicest guys. He's either the nicest guy you ever met or he's a hell of an actor because he really comes across genuinely good guy. Well, he came up with the title of A Bet's a Bet. And it was better than anything. We liked it. Well, then somewhere along the line, there was some distribution company who thought the title of The Opposite Sex was better. So we changed it to The Opposite Sex. But then supposedly Walmart wouldn't sell it in Walmart if it was called The Opposite Sex. So some places it's called A Bet's a Bet. Some places it's called The Opposite Sex. You can find it on Amazon. I think it's Amazon Prime or Amazon Plus. You can get it for like $2.99 or whatever. But, it was a fun process. They bought the script that I wrote. They liked the script that I wrote. They sat down and said, listen, the way you wrote it's too expensive. We can't film it this way. So we're going to have to make some adjustments. And, of course, we're going to have a guy come in, a buddy of the director's going to come in and polish it for us. So, the polish, there are some parts of it that I am very familiar with. There are some parts of it that are totally foreign to me that, I don't understand where that scene came from, and I don't. But the more I've learned about writing and the more I've watched documentaries on writers, you hand it over, you're like the architect. You give them the blueprint, you give them, and then they go from there.
They build the house.
Whatever happens, and if the owner comes in and says, well, I don't like this, then they just change it. So, the director has final say, and you just kind of sit there and watch it go through. But, it's a fun process. I'm working on other ones. I've made some friends. I just finished one that I'm pretty proud of, and I've got a couple more in the works. So, it's a good hobby for now, and we'll see where it goes.
There you go. All right, you're up in Montoursville, and your brother is coaching ball, right? I mean, a lot of ball, right?
He is he's the head high school basketball coach, and this past year, for the first year, I was the head JV coach. So we coached.
Dude, how did that go? I mean, I know you guys a long time. I don't. That's an interest. We had that with the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness with the DeCermo brothers working together. I don't know if you caught that story. You should go check that out.
I did.
Yeah.
I saw it. It's good. It's funny because a lot of people sat us down, and I don't say a lot of people. The athletic director here is she's actually a girl that played at college basketball, and she sat us down and she's like, "Listen, you guys can't fight. It's a game. You can't." I'm not kidding. And I said, "We'll be fine." And we mostly were. We had a couple dust-ups, but it's
so do the Hardballs, by the way.
But from a and I'm sure they do. But from a psychological standpoint, and everyone who has a sibling knows, what it's like to deal with siblings. And, in Mike's world, Ventura, Mike is an intelligent guy. He's not the most bubbly and outgoing guy. He's very reserved, very introspective. And, And
he was when he was 22.
Yeah.
He's 50 now, like me. He's old.
He almost. You guys are almost 50. And there are very few people, especially, he's a big fish in any pond, let alone in our little pond back here. Now, it's normal because he grew up here, his kids are here, and he's always seen. But there aren't a lot of people, and he hasn't had a lot of assistant coaches that tell him when they think he's wrong. And so there I am, and it's like, I wouldn't do that. And we have a lot of, and
discussion.
Mostly it's good.
It's discussion.
And mostly we agree because I had a guy say to me once, whether you're a conservative or you're a liberal, your goal is still to get to the same place. It's just a different path to get there. And, so sports-wise, Mike, we're trying to get to the same place, but I don't always agree his path of getting there. And as the head coach, just whether it's how to deal with the kids, whether it's dealing with the parents, or whether it's, this substitution or this offense or what we should do defensively. And I've told him, I'm going to tell you what I think. And if you don't like it, then, that's on you. But I think as an assistant coach, if I sit here with my tongue in my mouth because I'm afraid to give you my opinion, then I'm not doing my job.
You don't need an assistant coach at that point.
Exactly. So it was good. I think it was good for both of us. I think we're.
What would he say?
I don't know what he would say.
You're still employed. You still have the job.
I'm still there, and
I know enough to know he would fire your ass if he if he thought it was the right thing to do.
Well, he'll claim I was fired multiple times. I only remember being told I was fired once, but that was in a very heated discussion. And that wasn't even about basketball. That was about high school football.
I'm sure Billy Martin and George Steinbrenner probably had the same thing going on at one point.
I'm sure they did.
Mark Mussina.
I think we do it a lot more sober than Billy Martin and Steinbrenner did. But,
that is enough. I know at least you're sober. I can guarantee that.
That is neither here nor there.
Mark Mussina joining us here. The movie is either A Bet's a Bet or The Opposite Sex if you want to check it out on Amazon. You buy it with our Give a Spin app.
I will say this.
Yes, go ahead.
Mina Subari's in it. You know who Mina is.
Yes, absolutely.
From American Pie. And she is the female lead. So Kenan Thompson from Saturday Night Live is in it. I got to pick up Kenan at the airport. He's a good guy. He's in for a 2-day shoot.
Funny guy, right? Probably naturally funny, right?
He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
And he was the neatest thing about it was that all the people in it were so it was kind of like hanging out in the clubhouse. The people just talked. People just the lead came up and he's like, I was charging my phone and it was between scenes. He's like, dude, can I steal some juice for like 2 minutes? My phone's dying. So the only one who was really, really came off as a movie star was Mina. Mina was either on the set or in her trailer, but the director said it's because she will rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, and she takes it very seriously. So it was hard to tell if she was diva-ish or if she was just working and working and work because we didn't see her She didn't hang out.
Yeah, people wonder that about me. They wonder if I'm diva-ish or if it's just because I like to work a lot, right?
No, you are a diva. But for me, we can't. But every time she's on the set, like when she's on the screen, because she still looks the same as she did in American Pie. She is a movie star, and it really adds legitimacy to what we did, I think.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I haven't seen it yet, so it's got two different names. I know if I go to Walmart, I won't be looking under S for sex. I'll be looking under B for bet.
Here's what we do. You watch it, you rent it, and then I'll send you the script that I wrote, and you can compare and contrast.
Probably like reading The Shining and seeing The Shining, right?
Well, I never read The Shining, but yeah, I probably.
Little different. Mark Mussina here, joining us from Montoursville, PA, to talk some baseball. So, other baseball observations this year. Obviously, it's the Cubs' year, right? I mean, like, they're either going to win the World Series and fulfill this thing, or this is going to be one of the biggest, floppos of all time because they just look like the best team, and it looks like they're going to win 108 games or something crazy. It really does feel like they could be that good. Now, whether they're that good in a short series in October, and whether the Nationals or the Mets or the Giants or whoever's going to come get them, someone's going to have to come get them in October because no one's going to get them before October.
No, and it has set up for heartbreak, as you said. And if there's any team that could do with more heartbreak, it is the Cubs.
Well, I know this as a Capitals fan who's about to watch the Penguins win again. So, yes, I'm familiar, my man.
And it is, it would have been, last year they got there and no one expected them. Oh, my gosh, they're ahead of schedule. And we thought they were going to be good, but not this good this quick. And they get to the playoffs, and they go quietly. And they have been the best team, from the day people paid their taxes on April 15th. If you said who's the best team in baseball, it's the Cubs. And they have been essentially every day since then. They have the best record in baseball by a lot, and they are going to lead this thing wire to wire. But as you say, you get to the postseason, and how many teams have had the best record in the regular season going on to win the World Series? They have to stay hot. The pressure will all be on them. Any game they lose, then people start to look and say, oh, no, here they go. And so it's either going to be this long and joyous ride for the people on the north side, or it will end in, I don't say in devastation, but when you look at the city, the Bears are certainly in transition. The Blackhawks are good. The Bulls were disappointing, and the whole Derrick Rose thing has become and this is what they're riding with in Chicago.
Dude, I mean, I'm 47, right? And I've been at this longer. What are you, 42 now? 3?
I'm 44.
You're 44. So you're born in 73?
71.
71.
71.
71.
Yep.
All right, I'm not doing the math right. Okay. So you and my wife were 6 months apart. I always think of you as being a couple years younger than me. But, I mean, I go back to Ferguson Jenkins there and Bill Madlock in 1975 and that era and Kessinger and those guys and Kingman all the way through, Bilecki and Maddox there in the late 80s and Will the Thrill taking them out. I mean, I remember the Cubs have had legitimately 3, maybe 4 teams ever that could have won, right? I mean, a little bit with the Sutcliffe era there, a little bit with the Bartman era and the Moises Alou thing there, but by and large, they suck. They've always sucked. They usually suck. You expect them to suck. They get off on sucking, and now it's like the Red Sox the last 15 years. But now that they're good, they don't even know how to handle themselves, But I'm with you that it's been a long time and they've had to watch the White Sox actually win, right? I mean, they really won.
Yes. The White Sox have kind of come in between the Red Sox winning a couple times, 3 times. The White Sox came and won and disappeared, and, we don't even really remember. I remember the Cubs in '84 against the Padres when they lost back when it used to just be the East and the West, and the Cubs won the East.
And they were the better team that year. It was Jody Davis and Sutcliffe. Sure, that was a really, really good baseball team.
Was it Leon Durham, anchoring down first base back then?
And Ryan Sandberg was a rookie. He was unbelievable. Yeah, I mean.
So it's either going to be a great story. It's going to be a great story either way because they're not going to be the wild cards, obviously, or it would be shocking if something happened that they fell all the way back to the wild card. So they're going to get one of these series, and they're going to have to lose a series. So it's going to be a slow, painful death for them, or it's going to be this party that they've been waiting a century for, and it's going to make a good story either way. But they are good. I mean, they got pitching, they got hitting, they're young. They've got everything.
What do you think of Arrieta, man? You and I have not talked about this at all. I know you've made a life studying your brother and studying pitching and being at ballparks. And, I know you can't throw a party these days. You never could.
Oh, I'm back. I got it. I'm good. I'm healed. I'm ready.
You're fixed? Okay. All right. Well,
I can throw batting practice to these little kids all day.
Get your brother to teach you the knuckler, and maybe there's a chance for you. I've seen this kid up in Boston. Stephen Wright, after his comedy career, look how that turned out for him.
Exactly.
But you studied pitching, and then you see Arrieta with all this potential, and you go back to your brother having potential that was rewarded, but even your brother would probably say Ben McDonald had more talent, and just didn't, and his arm hurt, and this bad things happened, and Arrieta was one of these guys who was given away for a bag of baseballs and some Delaware Valley mud, and the next thing you know, he's Cy freaking Young, and it's almost inexplicable to a lot of people.
Well, the thing about all these guys, and I don't know where it gets to, there's point. The strikeout is such a celebrated stat for pitchers, and obviously we talked about the great ones. We just talked about Clemens and Martinez and Randy Johnson and those guys. But for the vast majority of these guys, it's the ability to pitch to contact, and it doesn't have to even be really soft contact. It's just not loud. And you see the Greg Maddoxes of the world and the Jamie Moyers of the world. And one of Mike's, I think the strike-shortened year must have been of 94, when Mike was dealing, and he was 16-5, and the strike went out mid-August, and he had 99 strikeouts. And then you look later in his career where he's striking out 200 guys in a season, and it is, if you can pitch, if you have really good stuff and you can just use it enough to pitch to contact, then
and you have a big enough ballpark, and you have a defense behind you a little bit, right? And you get more ground balls than fly balls, right? I mean, especially in the summertime. I mean, there's a lot of ifs there, but I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, look at what Scott Harrison pulled off, right?
You can just tell. Scott, the sinker ballers are good examples, and I could tell there were points in Mike's career where you could tell that he felt like if the guy hits it, nobody's going to catch it, and you just feel like that's the funk that you're in. And then there's the other points where you just know if I make good pitches, everything's going to work out. And Arrieta is in one of those roles right now where everything is going his way unless the guy throws a no-hitter. So, but it'll change. And you're going to wake up, whether it's this year, whether it's in 2018, and he's going to come off an injury. He's going to come off a funk. We saw what happened to Matt Harvey earlier this year.
But this is rarefied air what he's going through right now. I mean, this is like in that Hershiser, when Pedro was, on. There were guys like Glavine and Maddox that every day they did it. Your brother was one of those guys. Every day for 15 years, they were tough, and they had some stretches where they were better. Then there's this thing that's ridiculous, especially in that ballpark, and especially given how much he struggled. I mean, your brother never struggled. Most of the guys that do this for 15 years, Maddox is an exception. He struggled in the beginning, and I know Glavine sort of famously struggled early, but not struggled for years, and essentially getting jettisoned out of an organization after you've already made 80 or 90 starts. I mean, that's a lot. There was a lot to suggest that he was never going to be this guy.
Oh, nobody thinks anybody's ever going to be this guy. I mean, he's been better than anyone should really be. And I know in Baltimore it hurts because every time you see him that, by the way, he hasn't lost in a calendar year. He hasn't lost in 20 starts or whatever. Then it hurts just the way it must hurt in Pittsburgh every time they see Jose Bautista doing what he did in Toronto. And I know he was in Baltimore for a cup of coffee. He was a lot of places for a cup of coffee. But that,
Curt Schilling's not dissimilar to Arrieta. Curt Schilling always had the ability to be a 20-game winner and had a 10-cent head by his own admission early in his career. And if you go back onto his bubblegum card, not just the stops in Tucson and Rochester and the ups and the downs, but very, very few guys figure it out 5 years in, right? Usually they're either gone, they're banished to the bullpen. The second team doesn't even want to give them the ball every fifth day to give them an opportunity like that.
Yeah, and I think a change of scenery. One of the guys who's at totally other end of the spectrum is Jamie Moyer. And there are times where guys get the opportunity where they're cherished. And Moyer went from being a cast-off in Baltimore to a middle reliever in Boston to he gets traded to Seattle, and they're like, hey, you're our third starter.
Dude, I think he had 4 teams before he got here. I mean, literally,
he was a Cub first. He was a Ranger. Yeah, there was a lot. But when he showed the big thing about Moyer in Seattle was they had Randy Johnson and Bosio and nobody, and they're like, hey, not only do we want you, you're our third starter. Go get him.
Just get to the 6th inning, man. That's all we need you to do.
And all of a sudden, when you know, it's like dating. You know, you got the girl that complained about everything, and then all of a sudden you get another girl that's like, no, that's fine. And then you're like, wow, it's a whole different world. And you see people like that. And for whatever reason, you know, the National League certainly helps because you lose the DH. And, you know, not that Chicago's a great park to pitch in, but he went from a tough park to pitch in to the National League. Maybe that, you know, but when confidence for anyone, for pitchers, for golfers, for basketball players, for, you know, hitters, confidence is such a huge thing that once he got on a roll and he feels like he's bulletproof, he can ride that out until the next great question will be, what happens when he gets hurt? What happens when he gets beat up a little bit? You know, because we've seen, and it seems like it would be injury before anything else, but we saw Johan Santana be absolutely unhittable, and then he was essentially went from being unhittable to almost out of baseball. Like, it was a quick fall.
And he could have signed a $150 million deal somewhere in the middle of that and didn't, right?
I don't remember but I know he went to the Mets, so I'm sure he made a lot of money with the Mets. But, you know, I think didn't he throw the no-hitter with the Mets? Didn't he finally do that?
Yeah, I believe he did. I mean, I know the Orioles got him for you know, nothing on the taxi squad at one point. Maybe he'll be back. But, I mean, that's what happens with pitchers when an arm injury happens. Yeah. Usually, unless an injury is involved. By the way, I did the work on Jamie Moyer. Rangers, Cardinals, Cubs, Tigers, and Orioles. And at the time he got to the Orioles, and I remember when he walked in because it was the year that the Orioles, the last year they trained without a home facility. The first time I ever met Jamie Moyer was down at that Huggins Stengel facility in St. Petersburg that was like a shack. And by the time he got to Baltimore, I mean, I want to find out how many wins he had after his career was saved because he did go like 12-15. Yeah, by the time he got to Baltimore, he had started over 100 games in the big leagues with maybe 20 victories and never had an ERA under 4. I mean, his ERA's mid-5s and all that. It was the beginning of the steroid era, 89, 90, 91.
Well, and there's one of those years, I think it was 92, he spent a whole year at AAA.
Toledo Mudcats, correct. The 92 season he spent in the Tigers organization looking to get a cup of coffee that he never got. He wound up winning 240 more games after 5 organizations had thrown him out. I mean, that's kind of incredible.
He ended up with 269. He hung on. Well, then he hung on a little too long. But
he's almost in the Hall of Really Good, right?
He is in the Hall of Really Good, I would think. He did it.
4,100 innings.
A lot of wins.
Holy hell!
A lot of wins.
Hey man, it was great having you on. It's always great talking baseball history with you, and I hope you're having a good time up there on the mountain in Montoursville. I tried to, jump off the bus on the way to Buffalo and say hello. We were like ships passing in the night, and that was 2.5 years ago. At some point, there's got to be a hairspray show. I mean, come down to Philly and see Bad Company and Joe Walsh with me this weekend, bro. Come on.
Bad Company. You know who's coming up here? We're going to see Leopard, REO Speedwagon, and Tesla.
Is that at Scranton? They're playing a Scranton montage?
It's in, yes. They're playing at Scranton.
All right, well.
We're going to see that. I tell you what, another one I'm going to see, I've never seen, there's a few I'm embarrassed to say I've never seen. Joan Jett's playing up here in like 2 weeks, and I've never got to see her.
Dude, you're really going to like Joan Jett.
See, here's the problem. This is the problem with parenthood and adulthood. I've got to wait to see my kids in a minor league baseball tournament. He's 9 years old, and I got to wait to see who we're playing because our first game, I know when our first game is, but then it depends if you win or lose. And
I had this going on with my event last month, so I'm familiar with this. I mean, I had May 19th, a Thursday. I'm like, what the hell do you mean you can't make my event? I mean, put it in your calendar. Like, you don't understand. My kid might make the playoffs,
Yeah.
And once that happens, I understand, this is...
Yeah.
This is a 40-something, right? They made a movie about it.
If we are playing and it's a 5:30 start, I could probably maybe be close. But we could still be alive, and it depends if we go through the winner's bracket, through the loser's bracket. Are we out? So I may take Joan Jett in for the first time. in a couple weeks, but then Def Leppard's following that, and there's a couple other. Well, obviously Guns is back out. I would love to see Guns, but
you could see Guns or AC/DC and get the same thing, right?
Who knows? Who knows? I'd rather see. I'll say this: as embarrassing as this is for me to say, I saw Axl and the other version of Guns like 3 times, and they were fantastic.
You liked it, okay?
Maybe the best show I ever saw was Axl and his Merry Men. They were really good, but I'm excited to see Slash and Duff, and I wish Izzy was there. But what are you going to do?
Such is life with heavy metal and rock and roll. By the way, have you watched Vinyl?
I have not.
Oh, Moose. Okay, if there's anything I can do for you, I think your brother might enjoy it as well. It might be a family outing for you. It's 10 episodes. It's HBO. So it's produced by Martin Scorsese and by Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger's kid is in it and plays a punk rocker. The scene is 1973, teetering record company with cokehead, complicated. It's very Sopranos. It has, there's a murder, there's some rock and roll, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of sex, there's a lot of passing through of bands reenacted. There's an Alice Cooper, there's a David Bowie, there's all of that happens in the framework of this guy trying to keep his record company viable in the mid-'70s amidst madness. So, and there's mafia activity. Dude, it's very, very good. I think more than anyone I know, you will love it. It's HBO. It's Martin Scorsese. It doesn't suck, dude. HBO.
I will check in.
One word, Vinyl.
I'm sure you've interviewed him a million times, but Alice Cooper is an interesting dude. He's a very interesting.
I've only interviewed him once, and I've never physically met him. So here's what I'm doing. This gives me a good chance to promote this while I'm talking rock and roll with you, because we have some rock and roll memories. And every once in a while, at some point, I'm going to put the Van Halen picture up later on in the month of you and me with Van Halen back with your brother in whatever, summer 93, 94. So I'm beginning in July. There is a movement that I'm going to Europe to see Springsteen with my wife to meet the guy who saved her life, right? So we're trying to do that in July per her health and, work and doctors and all that. So we think we're doing that. So I'm taking a week off, All-Star Game week, when the All-Star Game's in San Diego, and I'm presenting all of my never heard before rock and roll interviews from the 80s. I've never heard them. I am editing them now. I've edited the David Bowie and the Billy Joel. I'm sort of starting at the top and working down. There are 23 Rock and Roll Hall of Famers involved in these interviews, and I'm cleaning them up to take out all of the F words and S words and, things that don't need to be heard on the radio.
Because you were unprofessional back then.
I was incredibly professional then. I had to edit the David Bowie piece the morning he died. There were 3 blips in there, and they were not me cursing. They were David Bowie cursing.
Okay, all right. He's an artist.
He's an artist. He's allowed to. There was no FCC in the art, as you'll find out with Vinyl, by the way. You need to watch Vinyl. So I'm going to present all of them, and I have about 180 of them. I think I'm going to try to clean up 50 or 60 of them. And I've released, a bunch of the names, at least in the first incarnation of like what has made the edit, so to speak. So right now, I'll give you the names because maybe some of these you'd be interested, maybe some of them you wouldn't be. But I literally they're on little micro cassettes, Moose, and I had to, when Jem was really ill back in October to pass the time, I literally would just take the little handheld with a fresh battery and in the room run them down and make sure the levels are good. So here are the names of the first cut. You ready? There's a lot of them, so you tell me.
Ready.
Ace Frehley, Debbie Harry, Billy Squier, the Black Crowes, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Jason Bonham, Brad Delp from Boston, Clarence Clemens, Harry Connick Jr., Dan Fogelberg, Daryl Hall, David Bowie, David Cassidy, Dennis DeYoung, Edie Brickell, Engelbert Humperdinck, Enough's Enough, The Fix, George Thorogood, Hart, Ian Astbury from The Cult, Jack Bruce, who, of course, with Ginger Baker is a part of Cream, Joan Jett, Joe Perry from Aerosmith, John Denver. I'm presenting John Allen, my pal from Child's Play and Charm City Devils. It's from the Child's Play era. John Bon Jovi on the New Jersey tour. Jonathan Cain, who was out with Bad English, as well as Neil Schon, who was out with Journey. Judas Priest with Rob Halford. Lou Gramm from Foreigner. Mark Cohen, you remember him walking in Memphis. Michael Damian, who was in some daytime television, who did sort of a pop star tour. Mick Jones from Foreigner. Extreme, I think I did Nuno Betancourt. Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Pat Benatar. Paul Stanley from Kiss. Peter Buck from REM. Randy Travis. Mike Ness from Social Distortion. The Red Hot Chili Peppers. Reeves Gabrel, who was the guitar player in David Bowie's band, is now with The Cure, out with The Cure, been with The Cure for many, many years. Roger McGuinn from The Byrds, Mark Slaughter from Slaughter, Soundgarden, Steve Vai, Steve Whiteman from Kix, Tommy Shaw, who was out with the damn Yankees that summer, not with Styx, Will Smith when he was out with the Fresh Prince, and ZZ Top. So that's the stuff that I've cut that said, well, these are the things people might be interested in listening to. So I need to edit all that by July 7th and get it on the radio.
There's a lot of good ones there. There's some that, fit more than others, obviously.
It's a week of radio, and I'm just presenting it as is, and
it is good.
And there'll be some storytelling. I'm bringing Mike Brillhart from 107, John Allen, several of my Hammerjacks connections in and around Hammerjacks, including Bud Becker, who booked a lot of the concerts back in the day and has his own vinyl stories. He's like a character in vinyl, quite frankly. And so I'm going to, have a little storytelling and then present what a 21-year-old version of me would say to Mike Campbell of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, which I don't even know. I mean, I listened to Bowie and I've listened to Billy Joel, and I'll be really honest, Moose, it's been 28 years since I did those interviews, and I thought it would be way worse than it was. It was way better because they're so good. You know what I mean? Like, listening to Billy Joel talk about how in love with Christy Brinkley he is, is really kind of a cool thing, I think.
I can imagine. And you know what? The more writing I've done, and now that I've been through the movie process and I've seen my script get altered and changed and put on the screen in a different form, and as kids, we sit there and we think, why can't Kiss just get along? Why couldn't the Eagles just stay together? And I understand, I've never had a writing partner, and I don't know if I could, because it would be hard. I've seen these.
You can't even get along with your brother.
I can understand.
And he doesn't need the money, you know what I mean? Which is even worse, right?
Exactly. I can understand why coaches need to have a head coach, because they disagree and they're like, well, I'm the final judge and jury just so we can move forward. I can understand why in a rock band. I'm not the biggest U2 fan in the world, but it's what they've done to stay together and be as successful as they are is incredible with having that many creative people. I saw a thing on the making of Hysteria, and they said it took them a year to finish Animal, which is a good tune. I like Animal. It's not my favorite Def Leppard song, but Def Leppard has, 15 great songs, and Animal would be one of them. And you sit there and you think, how can it take a year to write this song?
Because Mutt Lange was in the middle of the room, and they were all fighting and drunk and high, right? Exactly.
Well,
and 20 years old.
I don't even know now, because Hysteria was beyond that. That was after Rick. Pyromania, they might have been all drunk. I'm not sure how they were during Hysteria. But when you got this guy saying it should sound like this, and this guy saying it should sound like this,
who wins?
And the producer saying I think you're both wrong. It's hard, and I can. So for these people. We wish Guns N' Roses could have got together and played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We wish Kiss would have just played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I get it now more than I did as a kid. When you get these artistic, creative people who say, no, this is my vision and I won't relent from it, and you get two people in the same band with different visions and they won't relent, what do you do? It's tough.
Well, I tell you what, I had Steve Gorman on from the Black Crowes last week, and famously, those brothers never got along for 30 years, right? Famously, it's you and your brother hating each other in a band, married together, and you own it together, and now you're 45 and you don't get along. And, Gorman talked about it last week, all over the airways, because he came in for the MSA thing with his brother here, and, the Black Crowes are, famously, hated each other. And we talk about it all the time. The guys in Styx sued each other. The guys in Cheap Trick sued each other. The guys in Aerosmith have tried to make it work amidst being toxic for 40 years, right?
Well, when you said Dennis DeYoung, it kind of made me think of it, because, obviously that has not a happy divorce in in their world.
One guy wanted to do opera, one guy wanted to do rock and roll, right? It's kind of hard to make that work.
And they decided you're out, and then he's like, well, wait a minute, how can I be out? And
I put the S in sticks.
Exactly. Exactly. So it is what makes the world go round. And again, we wish that everyone could just get along and love each other, but
at some point, Manny Machado and Giordano Ventura might be on the same team or all-star team, right? To bring it all full circle, right?
But there's also points where you have to say, listen, I know you're going to be a great player, but you're not going to be a great player here, and for us, we need to, Dude,
am I nuts, or did Bill Hasselman become an Oriole? Didn't he become an Oriole at one point? In camp? Hasselman came to camp with the Orioles. I'm almost positive of it. I think I remember talking to him down in Fort Lauderdale about it. I think.
I don't think he ever broke camp with the team, but he might have come to spring training.
Unless I'm really getting senile, I think Bill Hasselman came to camp with the Orioles.
You may be right.
See, these things happen, right?
I may be crazy, but I just may be the lunatic you're looking for.
And I might see Billy Joel this summer. You might should come with me. Moose, love you, man. Appreciate you.
Is he playing down there?
Playing Nats Park. Come on, get out on Polestar and pick a night.
And you know what? I've never seen Billy Joel. I will say that.
Then
I've seen Elton John. I've never seen Billy Joel.
All right, we'll talk off air. I got to go.
All right, man.
See ya. There he goes, Mark Mussina, my dear friend. Love having him on and love hanging out. And I really do think Bill Hasselman. I think I have a picture of me and Bill Hasselman somewhere. It might have been after Mussina was gone. Yeah, it probably was. That's probably why it wasn't the same story. Oh, okay. So much for that. Now, let's see here. Is it? Yes, signed as a free agent with the Baltimore Orioles, came to camp with the Orioles in 2004, and I think Mussina probably already had 60 wins as a Yankee by then. So there. All right. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. I'm a very available individual. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere the internet is served. We will serve you, WNST. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.